posting that much on Twitter these days.
You're not posting at all?
Not that much. No.
You should.
I mean, I still post sometimes. I was going to post something earlier, but I forgot.
It's also not Twitter, it's X.
X.
You need to get on board with the new economy of the world. The golden age is upon us.
The golden age.
The golden age!
We won!
If you're watching this video, Joe Biden was successful in re-electing Donald Trump as the President of the United States. Really, the true MVP of this election year, Joe Biden.
Yep.
First, actually, I don't know if that's...
I think Jill Biden probably did more than him.
I was about to say, I'm not sure if that's entirely accurate.
Because I think she probably put up more of a stink and stuck more wrenches in the cogs, you know, being upset that now the Bidens are being booted out.
I think that you are not incorrect.
Because everybody talked about that. They were saying that Joe's not going to drop out because Jill likes being there too much.
Well...
But then they push him out anyway. And who's the least happy in that situation? Probably Jill, because she's losing what she loves so much. Dr. Jill.
Dr. Jill. And we saw just leak after leak after leak, which I take every single one of those, not just with a grain of salt, with a block, like a salt lick, a block of salt. I never know about these things. But we saw just complaint after leak after complaint after leak about Jill yelling at staff, like the Harris and the Biden staff going back and forth. Like, people said, you know, Joe Biden probably went and wrote in Joe on election day. And I was like, that's a good one. And then she walked out of the polls in a bright red suit. I was like, okay, maybe you've got a point. That's possible. I'm getting a lot of messaging here. So I don't know. I have no idea. It's possible. Welcome to Unauthorized Caucus. It is the live stream time. If it's not, you'll catch this on the podcast later. We appreciate you wherever you are watching or listening. If you're watching, you see we have changed our flag. Behind us, the backdrop is no longer the fight flag. It is the victory flag. Victory for a massive landslide election for Trump. There it is. We'll wave the flag. Okay, that was enough. That also didn't wave very much. That's a really thick flag. Okay, that's good quality. I like this.
This is like a great opportunity for like a soy jack, like, you know.
But it
thumbnail. That's what we can do. Later.
We can do the. We'll figure that out.
Soy face thumbnail.
Remind me. We'll get our thumbnail done. We had a huge landslide election Tuesday night. Wednesday morning early. I mean, most of it was Tuesday night. I think we all knew where it was going. It wasn't until I looked back. I posted when Trump won Pennsylvania, and that officially, by decision desk HQ standards, they were the only ones who actually seemed to want to call races. Otherwise, all the mainstream news, including Fox, just held it off as long as possible.
It was when Fox called Pennsylvania that I said, okay, he's won. We did it.
Well,
that was my moment.
I'm sorry that you're a slavering, you know, mind slave to Fox, but that's terrible.
I am a mind slave to Fox.
Well, I called it much earlier in the evening because the numbers gurus by about 10 o'clock, 10:30, between 10 and 10:30, there was no mathematical possibility for Kamala Harris to move forward in Pennsylvania. And the way that everything had turned out with Arizona early voting, Nevada early voting, and what we had already seen in Wisconsin and kind of in Michigan, there was no path to victory. I think we talked about a lot of stuff early on, but some of the predictions that we had, not that like pat ourselves on the back moment, but figure out how to interpret the will of the American people through polling and early voting, et cetera, and so on. There were some wins this year. It held true. I think I said it earlier. It seemed like Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania. If Trump takes those, there is nothing she can do. And then later on, it became apparent he had multiple paths to 270 that didn't even include Pennsylvania.
Right.
But she had to have Pennsylvania.
Right.
And by all accounts, it didn't look like she could do it.
She had a very narrow path. She really had to take most of the swing states, including Pennsylvania.
Right.
Because after Pennsylvania, Trump was just at 270.
Yeah.
You know, so it didn't matter if the four remaining swing states went to her, which they didn't. They all went to Trump, and he got over 310, which I consider a landslide. But even more what I consider a landslide is that you look at that map of the United States with the vectors on it, it looks like there is a literal avalanche going across the United States.
Yes.
A crimson avalanche, which is because, you know, I predicted he would win New York. I was wrong. You know, I've already gotten my 39 biblical lashes. We don't go over 40 here. So I I repent of my incorrect prediction that he would win. But holy cow, did he really push the needle red in so many states.
Well, and that's the thing, the swing on states. By the way, of course, what you're referring to, if you want to break some of these things down, there are a lot of really interesting places to go and look. But I will say the Associated Press has one of the big ones. They've got their big electoral dashboard where you can see a lot of the metrics. Decision Desk HQ has one as well. And what you're referring to in there is the one map you may have seen that has a bunch of little arrows on it. And that's where we get I mean, honestly, that's where most people determine their wave terminology from. Like we talk about a Republican wave or a red wave or whatever. But really, the real wave is when you see that map, which what it is, all the little arrows are either pointing upwards to the right or upwards to the left. It's blue or red, and it's showing the shift from whatever determined point, in this case 2020's presidential election to 2024. It's showing the shift from then to now. And pretty much the entire eastern half of the country. And when I say eastern half, it's
no, it's more than half.
Like it's more than half. It goes over to the Rocky Mountains.
Yeah.
Basically, the Rocky Mountain range and east. You see little flecks
Which is
here
still
and there.
way more than half because all the states in the West are huge. So
they are.
It's
But
maybe 80% of the states.
When you look at those and see a few little blue lines here and there, but this huge sea of red. And you also see there's shorter arrows for a little bit of a shift and longer arrows for more of a shift, especially when you sweep down to the border or across the bottom. Southern Florida, down in Miami-Dade County, which went red for the first time since what, 1988?
Since a 84? Long time ago.
I think it was either 88 or 84. Miami-Dade County went red. And then you look all across the bottom of Texas and the borderlands, huge red shift from 2020. Now, all of this is skewed because 2020's reporting, as we now know from the popular vote totals, 2020 was garbage. And that is my biggest takeaway for justifying you and me as America First folks. If anyone called you an election denier, you now have a graph to hold up and ask them, where are the 13.3 million, I think now, that she's missing? Kamala Harris, and well, here's your total. Currently, Donald Trump is sitting atop 73 million electoral votes, just over.
73 million electoral votes?
That's
insane.
Popular votes.
That is incredible.
Folks, you should see what the census map really looks like. 73 million popular votes. 73 million votes. Kamala Harris is closing in on 68.5 million. I'll remind you, the highest ever until Trump in 2020 with 74 million votes. The highest ever was Barack Obama, 2008, 69 and change. Kamala Harris is getting close to 69. Now, by the way, Arizona has only counted about 3/4 of their votes. California's only counted 60% of their votes. So, I mean, there's just less than half of the votes in California still coming in. Will it change the state? No. It will still be a Kamala Harris state. Will it change the vote totals? Yes. Trump is on par to hit, if you draw a line from 2012 to 2016 to 20 to 2024, there's this rising line of a little bit more electoral votes for the Republican each time.
Popular votes.
Popular votes. Sorry, dadgummit. The people who elected him, you know what I mean. We're talking about votes, individual votes, person. That line goes up. There is an upward trend line amongst Democrats, except 2020, where it goes through the roof with this supposed 81 million votes for Biden, and now it's back down to 68. That 81 minus the 68, you're looking at all the Democrats right now, and they're going, this is so strange. Where are those 13 million votes this year? To which all of us say, yeah, where are the 13 million votes? You know why? They weren't there.
I'd be most interested in seeing in a couple weeks, once all the dust is settled and we have all the data, a state-by-state breakdown of which states had the biggest gap or Democrat vote totals. Because I think a chunk of that is fraud. I also think a chunk of it is that Harris did not get out the vote like Biden did, and the issues weren't really, because 2020 there's COVID and BLM going on. Like, people are pissed off for a lot of reasons, and Trump is president, and if people are pissed off and you're the president, they're probably going to be pissed off at you. So that makes sense how Biden could get out the vote a little bit better, but not that much better. But it does make sense that it would, like, I would expect it to be lower. Just over 10 million lower. That's a lot. Especially with the, yeah, I mean, it's What's weird is that Trump's numbers are lower too, though.
Well,
total votes, but
not yet. I mean, I told you.
Yeah, we don't have the final count yet.
I mean, that's the thing. If you go and look, he currently has, again, by Decision Desk HQ, which is the only one publishing numbers quickly. Everyone else is lagging very, very. I mean, for crying out loud, the Associated Press has still not technically awarded Nevada and Arizona, both of which are solidly Trump at this point. They didn't award Michigan for like a day, and it was pretty solid. So you look at it, the highest vote number we see, 73,066,063 votes. If you go back into history and see the 2020 election results, basically what you're looking at, 74 million, where is it? 74,224,000. 74,224. He's at 73,066. California still has 40% to count. Now, where that 40% is, I don't know, but there's millions of votes for both of them in California. Right now, she has 5,750,000 votes. He has just over 4 million votes. If you go back and look into 2020, it is California cast 11 million votes for Biden and 6 million votes for Trump. Mm-hmm. He is at 6 million. He still has 2 more million, likely. You would assume there's at least the same number. He still has 2 more million votes to come. That's 75 million. Mm-hmm. 75 is higher than his 2020 total, which again, welcome to a graph that makes sense. It's continually rising as people are interested. But here's why, folks, I say it is a landslide of all landslides, because it's not like the Reagan 1984 map or Nixon 72 where every single state, we will never ever see that again because of the blue city dominance of some of these states.
I disagree.
But, that's possible, but despite everything that has been done to him, I mean, how many lawsuits, criminal convictions, felonies, defamation cases and fines and penalties, trying to throw him in jail, all of this stuff. And then running to the last 2 weeks now, just the literally Hitler lines and everything, he still wins. And it looks like the vote total, my guess, he surpasses his total votes from 2020. And 312 on the electoral map, which he had never done before. I mean, Biden got 306, but even if you go back to the 2016 election results, I mean, even there, we're talking about the 304. Like, we just don't have presidential elections where they register barely over 300 at the most anymore. Now we're at 312. This is huge. And guess what? We can lose a bunch of those states and still absolutely dominate in 2028. But that's because we have a census readjustment that we're looking. Anyway, we'll talk about that later. There's a lot of stuff coming down the road, but this is huge, historic. The stuff that is wild to me, though, you talk about the map that goes every single shifted Republican. If you look at every state, only 48 of the 50 states saw a right shift from 2020 to now. 48 of 50. Now, there's some of them are huge. Some of them are very small. But 48 of the 50 states swung to the right from 2020 to this year. And we don't even have the full picture of data yet.
Yeah, and I think it was you that texted me that New York is now closer to being red than Texas is to being blue.
I think I saw that. There was a lot of stuff that was going about. One thing that's true, Donald Trump came closer to winning New York than Kamala Harris came to winning Florida.
Yeah.
He was within striking distance. And again, you want to talk about where the 13 million votes are, those didn't come from swing states. They eked Joe Biden across the finish line in swing states. They ran up the totals in places like New York City and Los Angeles, Philadelphia, places like that. So, you put that in there as a grain of sand. Biden won New York by 27 points, and this year Kamala Harris only won it by 12. And I don't know how much we'll ever be able to divide the factors there, but I mean, Kamala Harris was not nearly as popular as Joe Biden to be honest, like Joe Biden 2020 was more popular than Joe Biden 2024. Let's be real. But also, Donald Trump 2024 is more popular than Donald Trump 2020 even.
Yep, and Donald Trump 2016. Like he is.
And 2016.
He's huge.
Well, and that's the thing. The reason you see such a massive leap, I think, from 2020 to 2016 to 20 numbers is because a lot of folks who you and I know, people you know them too, a lot of people who were very hesitant in 2016, J.D. Vance being one of them, by the way, who said, oh yeah, I was wrong. Okay, I'm on board for this. I like this guy. I want that again. Let's do it. Because people didn't know what to think. He was untested, unvetted, in the sense that he had never actually been accountable as a government official to the voters that voted him in. Never had happened before. You all get a taste of it. You see how good it is. Now we want to do it more. Well, then you especially understand how good you had it because of what the next people do. Now we're talking about rising. So Kamala Harris may have just lost some of the numbers in New York, and Trump may have just taken some of the numbers in New York. I don't know how to divide it other than Biden was 27 up, she was only 12. Or maybe it went up a little bit more to like 17. Whatever it was, that's uncomfortable. That is very uncomfortable. Yeah, it came down 11, 44.2 to 55.8. So there is 11.6. 11.6% Trump was behind in New York, which is bonkers town. All of Long Island. He took Suffolk County and Queens. No, I'm sorry, Nassau, not Queens. He took Suffolk and Nassau. He took all of Long Island red.
Wow.
I mean, and not that much, 55.5%, 52.5% over in Richmond, the other little piece jutting out on the other side of Manhattan.
My internet's not working, so I got to look at yours.
65.4. And then there's the little blue wall that goes up toward Albany. But I mean, oh my gosh, it was just wild. Donald Trump is inarguably the most popular person in American politics today, bar none. And that's a factor we're going to have to talk about across the board on some of the other candidates. But I mean, just looking at some of this, Tim Walz, supposedly Mr. Midwestern appeal. Tim Walz lost everything, including his home county. The only reason he didn't is because of Minneapolis-St. Paul and 1, 2, 3, 4 other counties.
Yep.
It's nuts. But Tim Walz's Minnesota has essentially turned red, except for the Twin Cities and then a couple of suburban areas. The rest of the state's under Republican control. Donald Trump won Tim Walz's home county. That's exciting.
Yep.
There's your red wave you were looking at with the huge.
Yeah.
We'll post. There will be links this week, folks.
Yep.
Because I could flash all this on the screen, but you need to go and look at it yourself. There will be links. But I mean, yeah, I saw this with the New York Times analysis. Here you go. 2024 nationwide county shifts. County, which by the way, the county map is just so fun to look at because it is a quite a remarkable thing. Let me see if I can pull this up here. County by county. No, not for New York. I'll pull this up. But we look at the county map results instead of state by state, and you realize we are a nation of red states with blue cities. That's it. They're geographic. It doesn't even count. But looking at the county shift, urban counties across the nation shifted 5.2% to Trump. Suburban counties shifted 4.3%. Counties that are over 25% black shifted 4.1% to Trump. Over 25% Hispanic shifted 9.5% to Trump. And less than 50% white shifted 6.9% to Trump. Also, over 50% college educated shifted 4.0% to Trump. So when the liberals of TikTok yell at you for not being educated or smart, you can let them know that their class of people, according to them, also shifted 4% to your opinion because you're right.
Also, Zoomer men had a huge rightward shift, like an insanely rightward shift.
Yeah, demographics are wild.
The youth usually go blue, like in recent elections. That's just kind of what we expect. But even Zoomer women went rightward. They're still not positive in the Republican direction, but they're really close. I don't have the graph in front of me because the internet's not working on my computer. But it was what was it, like -5 towards Democrat, whereas Zoomer men were like +18 Republican?
Yeah, I've got the exit polls here in front of me. So, I mean, interestingly enough, by age and so men, and this is there's some different ones depending on if you look at the Associated Press or NBC, which was pulling their stuff from AP and something else. Anyway, when you look down some of the demographics, it is a little wild. So women voted 53% for Kamala Harris, men 55% for Donald Trump. But when you get down to it, there were some very interesting sex by race. White men 60% for Trump, white women 53% for Trump. White women went majority for Donald Trump.
Yeah.
One of the key demographics the left insisted would never ever support him because of how terrible he was. 53%
That
of white
was
women.
honestly the demographic I was most concerned about.
Well,
white
and that's
women.
the highest. Sex by race, 37% of the electorate this year were white women.
Yeah.
White women delivered the election for Donald Trump. And I'll give you one word as to why, probably. Immigration. No, I take that back. Never mind, there's multiple words because it's immigration, it's their daughters in sports. It's, I mean, you fill it out. There were split tickets across the, all over the place. People who were on the left, I still think, who voted for Trump because Harris embraced some of the most radical stuff, pouring criminals across the border, pouring men into women's locker rooms, and pouring boys into your girls' sports leagues. Those three things shifted a massive section of the electorate.
But that was not as surprising to me as Hispanic men. Latino men going like that is unheard of in recent history for a Republican candidate to win a majority of any minority demographic group.
Yep,
Period.
And he did.
And he did.
55% of Latino men voted for Trump. And of course, by the way, folks, these numbers we're talking about, these are all based on what you call exit polls. So it's technically a survey. It's not like we know every single vote that's cast. We can count them like we can for the candidates themselves. But when you run down every single thing, it really is it's wild to see the difference in the demographics.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting.
Because they've been saying he's racist for 8 years, especially towards Hispanics. Like that was who the regime kept saying Trump was most racist towards, and apparently they're okay with that. And not only are they okay with it, they support it. Well, because I think a lot of Hispanic men, especially that have come to the U.S. and have integrated into the economy and are working hard and like have families here now that are part of our country, because there are a lot of Hispanics in the country, and they make up a big part of the country. The issues that concern everybody else concern them just as well, including mass migration. And when mass migration doesn't just mean from Mexico or from South America anymore, but means from literally anywhere on the entire globe, that affects them the same as it affects other Americans. So it's no wonder that they noticed that.
And that was interesting. One of the other interesting things to me was to watch the Gen X crowd move significantly toward Trump. That was 54% of the 45 to 64. 54% went for Trump. It was very, very interesting. And break it down by age even further. It's very interesting because it is there. We were split. 60% of men 45 to 64 voted Trump. 55% of 65 and older. A little younger, 30 to 44, 53% delivered. But 18 to 29, Donald Trump took it away, 49%, the majority. Even though it wasn't the majority, he ran away with the plurality of the vote because Kamala Harris did not take the majority. But, I mean, Trump got 15% across the board with young black men and women. And he got in the high 40s across the board with all aged Hispanic voters.
Wow.
I mean, it's wild.
We got like 20% with black men.
With black men, I'm just talking about with black voters, period. Men and women, he took 15% of every age category, which is big considering you're not breaking it down. I mean, it's in this day and age for that to happen. There's a lot of stuff here that show a big shift in the electorate that are it's very, very interesting. But I mean, Trump surged nearly double digits with Hispanic men from 2020 to this year. It's not just what he took, it's how different it is from 2020 to now. I mean, in some places it was wild. Like the most Hispanic county in America. It's Texas. What is it? I forget the name of it. But the most Hispanic county in America is in Texas. Donald Trump won with like 95% of the vote. It was bonkers.
Yeah.
This is one of the border places down there.
Yeah.
But I mean, you look across places like Texas, which was a win, but just the demographic shift. Trump won over 30% of black men in Texas. 34% of black men in Texas.
Yeah.
Huge. Some states where traditionally a voting bloc has made it more of a race than just red or blue flip. Like, oh, well, this actually, some of these demographics may close to deliver a Democrat.
Right. Well,
we're doing it this year.
Hispanics voting in Texas, because Texas has better election laws than super liberal states. So the Hispanics voting in Texas are going to be American citizens that have the right to vote. And if they're living on the border, like they're seeing firsthand the border crisis that's directly impacting their lives as the cartels are taking over and smuggling and trafficking. Like that's happening in their backyards. And I've read excuse me, I read a litany of articles. I mean, and Texas covers a lot of the border too. Now, it wouldn't surprise me if Southern California Hispanics voted similarly as well. I'd like to look at those numbers.
Yeah.
And I mean, Southern California in general, outside of the big cities. Well, I mean, the rural counties go red anyway, really. It doesn't matter what kind of state they're in.
Well, by the way, I see some questions coming in. We got talking about what will Trump do when he gets in. We're going to get to this in just a minute because I want to get to some of the transition stuff that we're looking at. But I mean, basically, pulling this apart, one of my big takeaways of this is looking at Trump dragging some of the Senate candidates across the finish line. We did take the Senate at least 52, or is it 53 votes right now in the Senate? And there were several that I believe at this point very firmly you can find were stolen. When I cut off some of the major election coverage, I thought, okay, we're going to wake up tomorrow with different numbers, but not different winners, at least not in the presidential race. That held true in Michigan and Wisconsin, and even in Nevada. And yet, I woke up the next morning, and what have we done? They have flipped and delivered stuff for Democrat candidates in the Senate. And thank you to giant ballot dumps in Detroit, in Milwaukee, and last night, one night later, I forget what day it is now because I didn't sleep normally this week. Nevada had a huge mail-in ballot dump out of Clark County that took Sam Brown down to number 2 and brought the Democrat candidate up over the top, Jackie Rosen, and he was on par. Even the Democrat numbers guy said, yeah, Sam Brown is there. They haven't called it yet, but it's him. There's no one else. They found ballots out of Clark County, Nevada, and their own numbers man didn't even know about it. It's absolutely crazy. Like they managed to steal Senate seats. That doesn't mean we flipped Montana. John Tester's gone. We flipped Sherrod Brown. He's out, and we've got a new. I would love to say a counterpart for J.D. Vance, but J.D. Vance is being elevated to second in command. It's exciting. But Bernie Moreno took over there, and then of course West Virginia flipped because Joe Manchin, the Democrat turned independent, was not running again. So there were 3 Senate seats flipped. We have 52 Republicans. And it looks like they ought to just give it to Dave McCormick in Pennsylvania. He ousted Bob Casey. That'd be 53. And I think, I don't know if it's enough, but the Kerry Lake Ruben Gallego margin is closing, but I don't think it's going to make it up. It's possible, but I don't think it's going to make it up. So I don't think we're going to flip Arizona. Still, though, we get the Senate, which means, you know what I want? I want judges who are 30 and under for the next 4 years to just get ding, 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 send them through.
Yep.
Do it.
They should make you a judge.
I think that would probably be a terrible idea.
That would be awesome.
Guilty. Move. No, I'm kidding. Oh boy, it's very interesting. In the House, I don't know. What do you think about the House? I think the House. They obviously haven't decided, but I think the House goes Republican.
We're going to get the House,
but barely.
Yeah.
Like it's not going to be. They may actually lose their majority that they had, or not majority. They may lose the total number, down a little bit, but they're not going to lose the majority.
Yeah.
They only need to win 5 more currently. They're at 213, and the Democrats are at 200. So the race to 218, we get 5 more before they get 18, but it's going to be very, very, very close.
Yeah.
But still.
Which that'll be probably
it's not like we're
one of the hardest areas for the next 2 years.
And we're not losing like a 2/3 majority or anything. It's not any different except there's a few. Well, it is a little bit. If not everyone is there, that makes it more difficult. But it's not like we've lost a 2/3 majority down to nothing. So
yeah. So we had questions about what's Trump going to do once he gets to. That's. I mean, we got a few weeks until the inauguration. We should do a whole
that's
whole
gonna
episode on like
yes
wish list / priorities for Trump's term.
Well, and frankly, literally just last night, we started seeing all these videos drop really fast about Trump's agenda. And I mean, like, there's going to be a massive 250th birthday celebration for America that goes from Memorial Day 2025 to Independence Day 2026. He's talking about the American State Fair, like a World Fair level.
That's going to be awesome.
Thing again. He's talked about that, but also the other videos I've seen, he is going to, on day one, he says, sign an executive order to make sure the federal government is correctly interpreting the 14th Amendment to remove birthright citizenship as something in the United States, which is fantastic. We're going to see a lot of those things.
And he's already saying
coming in the coming days.
Dictator on day one for drill baby drill.
Yep,
he's going to get the energy going back, which is going to make the economy look a lot better, a lot faster, and not through quantitative easing or artificially driving down interest rates, all these, macroeconomic tools that we have to give ourselves a little jolt that we have to pay for later. It's like, no, if we are boosting energy production, that across the board boosts the economy, lowers the prices of everything, which is going to drive up real wages, and everybody's going to be a lot happier very quickly. Yeah. There's also, was he saying mass deportations on day one? Start those on day one?
I've heard that, but I haven't seen it as one of the official policies just yet.
That's going to require a little more, step-by-step planning too, because that's a big task. But and J.D. Vance in interviews was saying, yeah, we're going to have to start with a certain number and deal with those, and then move on to a next type of group.
My guess is you're going to see the very first thing that you're going to see is executive action on energy specifically, and on deportation of criminal aliens.
Yeah, that's going to be the easiest one.
That's the easiest. But I think, honestly, just to answer Jesse's question over here from the X chat, which, by the way, I'll remind you, throw those questions in there, because we've got we're streaming live across Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble, and or Facebook, X, YouTube, and Rumble. Love to hear from you on the chats, and we'll take any of the questions. But as far as Trump, I think you're going to see immediate policies on energy and on energy, immigration, and I think you're going to see a few key appointments immediately on weaponization. That's not necessarily an executive order, but I think his cabinet is going to be a big deal. Cabinet and also task forces. Like, I don't know if RFK Jr. is actually going to be appointed onto the cabinet, but he's going to be given some sort of quasi-cabinet level position of being in charge of a task force, essentially, like the health czar. Yeah. You're going to see stuff like that. I think that's my third big component of day one, what you're looking at for Trump. Energy, immigration, which are the two main things. Energy and immigration both will have an effect on the economy, energy particularly, and also regulatory side, you're going to see attacked quickly, but that's in some of the nominations.
Is there going to be a Fed chair switch up during this term?
I don't know.
Because I know that that's kind of set up so it's not, it doesn't happen every presidential term.
Chairman of the Federal Reserve, when does this come about? I'm seeing reports that the Trump is likely to allow him to serve the remainder of his term, which is when? It expires May 20 of 26, so it does change this time.
Okay. Well, hey, I think if Ron Paul is feeling up to it, Trump should put him in there.
Well, Ron Paul already said something about being a part of the government efficiency task force, and Elon Musk said sure. So that, I mean, again, it's all theoretical.
Ron Paul said we should end, like, one of the top tasks of the Doge should be to end the Fed. And Elon Musk said, sure, let's try it out.
Let's try it. What do you think is the most important cabinet position that Trump is going to put down? Which one is the most important? Not who is it, which one?
I'm not sure.
Bar none, I think Attorney General is the most important decision he can make.
Well, is it the chief of staff that kind of organizes all the people around that are, like, working on stuff?
In what, the White House or in the cabinet?
Or in the, like, whoever, I don't know all the details of the cabinet positions, but whoever has the most say about who, like, the kind of middle people are,
Mm-hmm.
you know, beneath the cabinet, like in all the different departments of the executive branch or the administrative state. Whoever has the most say and sway over that.
Well, that's the thing, is there's going to be a lot of that stuff that gets jockeyed to begin with, which I saw
Mm-hmm.
you saw they announced today the transition team. Linda McMahon's on it, and I forget the other guy, but two Trumpian outsiders are leading the transition team, which is working on that. So we'll start to see stuff like that in the coming days, because if there's anything we know, Trump, well, I say if there's anything we know. In 2016, Donald Trump announced a lot of this stuff late because they got to the ball game late, but also there were a lot of concession hires to the more establishment side. I don't think we're going to see that. I think he's going to put Trump loyalists across the board, and I think he ought to.
That's
Which I
that's
hear
the
like
most important thing.
it makes me very uncomfortable that Mike Pompeo is as friendly with Trump as he is. However, I know that Trump has said we're going to release the JFK files. RFK wants that done, and Mike Pompeo is at the center of that not getting done the first time. So I look at it and go, I know he's got some friendliness and loyalties, but I don't know if it's going to be enough to get him into good graces.
He should
with
put
everyone.
Mike Pompeo in charge of like something really boring and small.
Or nothing at all.
Yeah.
Who do you want for Attorney General, though? Because again, I think
Mike Pompeo.
Yeah, there you go. I think that with the weaponization we have seen of government, so much of it centering around the DOJ, and frankly DHS, DOJ and DHS, Homeland Security and the Department of Justice, those two are going to be massively important, because that oversees some of the biggest stuff. The border invasion, the cover-up at Butler, Pennsylvania, that all comes right back to the Department of Homeland Security. Customs and Border Patrol and Secret Service go to that. But over at the Department of Justice, what do we have? We've got the FBI. We have all kinds of stuff that has just been off the rails and has to be reined in. And one of my greatest regrets still from Trump 1 in 2017 is that Jeff Sessions, who I thought was going to be a fantastic attorney general, he agreed to be a nice guy and to handcuff himself on some of the incoming investigations, and he lost all confidence at that point from the Trump side, and it was completely a play by the left to have him handcuff himself in recusal over the Russia hoax. I really hope whoever they are now come in scorched earth, no unity. We are done with you people. Because that's what it's got to be.
The intensity needs to start at the beginning. We can't wait till the end to try to make big moves and make a difference. Like, he's got to set the tone for his presidency on day one and on the first week. He has to say, okay, this is the new game in town. This is how we're doing it.
I agree.
Yep.
It's got to go. And I think the last 4 years have been a teacher on that front.
So who do you think should be the AG?
I kind of like Jeff Clark.
Yeah.
Jeff Clark knows where the bodies are buried, and Jeff Clark's mad because he's been at the hand. Maybe that's not the best tactical choice, but I look at it and say that's the kind of energy I would like to come in and say, we're going to clean this house. Someone get me the shop vac. Like, there's no broom. I've got the shop vac.
Yeah.
Give it to me now.
Yeah.
Now, I think there's a lot of other decent choices. Like, I heard people floating, oh, Ken Paxton. I'm like, no. I think Ken Paxton has done a lot of good stuff in Texas, but I don't know if I trust implicitly Ken Paxton to look at government weaponization and say, I will destroy you and bury you myself. Someone like Jeff Clark understands that.
Yeah, so who's been weaponized against.
Or whoever it is, as long as his right-hand henchman is Mike Davis, I'm on board. If Mike Davis can be just the active trash taker-outer at the Department of Justice, that would be great. I know he wants to be the D.C. Viceroy, but I think if he could be the strong man of the Department of Justice, we could have a whole good time. I'm on board with that one. Mike Davis, Article 3 Project, if you're not familiar, folks, go find him at MRDDIA or something on X, or article3project.com. That's the number 3. Mike is savage, take no prisoners, but also extremely smart. Very interesting guy there. I'd love to have, that'd be so much fun. Can you imagine him with free reign over the Department of Justice?
It would be epic.
Boy. Oh, boy. I'm hearing that they're floating, I'm hearing people are floating, hey, Trump should pick up the Florida Surgeon General. His name escapes me, but I remember him being really solid from the COVID years.
Escapes me? That's a weird name.
It is. It's a strange name. Escapes me. Very nice looking man, tall, strange name. I can't remember his name, but
kind of slippery, gets away easily.
Something like that. Maybe did I pull that up and save it? Maybe I did. Oh yeah, Joseph Ladapo. Joseph Ladapo, the Surgeon General of Florida. They're pitching him for potentially being the HHS secretary. That could be fun. There are some very interesting discussions. We'll get into more of that because I think you're going to see Trump. They've been working on the transition team already. And, I mean, RFK has given us a picture into that Trump has been spending his own money getting that ready way earlier than he did in 2016 and 17. So I think that you're going to start to see announcements. We'll have a whole show about that. But here's the big question, the final one I want to end on. Someone, by the way, Jesse over on Twitter again is asking on X, what country is Taylor Swift moving to? Unfortunately, I think you all and we both know none of these hacks are actually going to leave.
Yep.
It'd be nice if they did.
But they will be deported.
That would be wonderful too, but I don't have any faith that'll happen.
To the moon, lunar labor camp.
It can't be Mars because that's where we're going, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's where Elon
Yeah,
wants to
we're
go.
going to be streaming caucus from Mars.
Oh,
we're
boy.
Be like, it's a 17 o'clock on Mars right now. I don't know. That's going to be weird. Keep it the time. Do you think when they have Mars colonies, they'll like, how do they even do time on the International Space Station?
I don't know.
Anyway, so I'm going to look that up later. That's
that sounds like something I need a cup of coffee and not anything else going on right now.
That's like a thought that I have as I'm falling asleep and I'm like, I gotta look this up.
By the way, let me give you one other tiny little factoid. We know the Electoral College split now. Before we move to the final topic, the Electoral College split: Trump 312, Harris 226. Well, there's another fact. Donald Trump raised $388 million. Kamala Harris's campaign raised just over $1 billion.
Holy moly.
Raised and spent. And by the way, there is a fun, you should look this up, there is a fun financial crisis brewing because after raising $1 billion, the Harris campaign is currently $20 million in debt.
Oh my goodness.
And all of them are shifting it around, trying to figure out who to give it to, the hot potato, and then leave.
What'd they spend it on?
I don't know. They spent it over $1 billion. Actually,
what in the world did they spend all of that on?
Here's your culture moment to take a look at this. So as this is brewing, where'd it go? This is from Matt Boyle over at Breitbart, and it's getting explosive today. So I don't know quite where this goes. There is a supposed Kamala Harris campaign staffer who has talked to Breitbart and said, yeah, the $20 million of debt is real, and one of the finance guys is currently trying to shop around the fundraising list to see if anyone wants to try to raise the money back. But they're reporting that the campaign manager blew through $1 billion in a few months because they did all of the concerts, which you've seen this and we've seen it. The only way to get the massive crowds, Kamala Harris basically hosted a concert with Beyonce or whoever, and then spoke for a few minutes.
And then even ran out of money because sometimes they weren't even singing. Like it was the Beyonce one where she just talked, right?
Yes.
For 5 minutes.
But that's the thing. These quote-unquote concerts, Katy Perry, Lizzo, Eminem, Bruce Springsteen, etc., they did those at the expense of prioritizing and spending money on social media and other campaign priorities, according to the leaks in the campaign. And apparently a group in Georgia had to lay off 100 people because they couldn't pay them. This was near the end of the campaign. It's unclear at this time if the campaign paid the talent to perform, but the cost of production was, according to the source, immense. So yeah, that's according to the staffer too. A lot of campaign staff on the Kamala Harris side said several people who were working for the Harris for President campaign are still awaiting several overdue payments they were promised for their work. So staff haven't gotten paid either. I can see. When I see that staff haven't gotten paid, there's a leak from a staffer. That makes sense. That actually lines up of you may in fact have some really, really disgruntled people that didn't like working with her, felt they were going to lose. We'll see.
Yeah, booking Eminem is $3 million per show, which that doesn't even account for production costs, I think.
They're calling for an audit of the Harris campaign finances, top
and that's
to bottom.
Just for corporate events. For concerts, $5 to $10 million or more.
Well, and just to put it in perspective, folks, this $20 million in debt, according to all of the final filings, because all this stuff gets filed with the Federal Elections Commission, the FEC, this $20 million of debt was accrued in the final week. So they just plain spent themselves into oblivion for a historic loss.
And let's not forget that Trump's 37 felonies are about campaign finance issues. Mm-hmm. That's what they stuck it on.
And by the way,
how much money was that?
I don't even remember the numbers. It was the hush money. It wasn't over $1 million.
Yeah.
It was wasn't it a few tens of thousands?
Yeah.
I don't even think it hit 6 digits.
Oh my goodness.
I don't remember. I have to go look.
Versus,
That's how insignificant it was.
Versus blowing through $1 billion and ending up $20 million in debt. There is some issues there. I want who in the DOJ is going to go after that?
That'll be interesting.
Not for the sake of election interference, but for the sake of justice. Or leave them. Let these people stay. These money mismanagers, these campaign finance buffoons, let them stay for 2028. Like, it's like Napoleon said, don't interrupt your enemy when making a mistake. Or was that Sun Tzu? Probably both. They probably both understood that, and that's the wisdom that Trump and his DOJ needs. Do not let these financial dunces pay for their crimes. Just let them keep doing it, please.
Yeah. Well, in the effective time, across the whole thing, let's talk about between now and January, but across the whole thing, absolutely historic wrap-up. I feel like I'm a lot less enthusiastic than I was because I'm just so tired still from the last 2 days.
I'm enthusiastic. I actually got a good night's sleep last night.
I'm very enthusiastic. I did too, which is why I'm tired. I am very enthusiastic, but the overarching thing throughout this entire one for me, yes, historic landslide, 312 electoral votes. Donald Trump won the popular vote, and it's not even close.
Yeah.
That is a scathing rejection of everything that the left has said for 4 years.
Yep.
Of January 6th, that entire narrative trashed. Of all of the weaponization against Donald Trump, all of the federal lawsuits, the state lawsuits, obstruction, documents, hush money, trashed. That's what that means. You have to keep talking about that and hold that up above everything else, shove it in the left's face, and boost up all of your Trump voting friends with it. Donald Trump won the popular vote, and it's not even close. I'll remind you, if we got this whole popular vote, national compact thing that the left wants to do, you remember that? They want to have the national popular vote compact. If someone wins the popular vote, all the electoral votes go. You take a look at that map and tell me if the left still wants it today. I doubt it.
Yeah.
But Donald Trump won the popular vote. That has to be yelled from the mountaintops over and over and over. Now, final minutes. Between now and January, what in heaven's name is going to happen? Because Kamala's concession speech yesterday, way too easy to take it on the nose. Obama, Biden, everyone else, they seem way too laid back about this. There is no way, and we said this before here on this program, they have literally called him Hitler literally too many times, literally Hitler over and over again, to just wash their hands of it and say, oops, shucksy doodles, we missed this time. We'll have to beat him in 4 years. They can't do that.
Right. But they also dropped the cases, the Jack Smith cases.
Well, and to your point, you're correct. The 2 Jack Smith cases are being dropped because the DOJ says, oh, well, we have a policy of not prosecuting current sitting presidents. Jack Smith is going to get gotten rid of. Now, I think they know the fire and fury of Trump is coming. But then also I'm hearing Juan Merchan is thinking about dropping, like reversing their case, and because Trump's sentencing is coming up here on what, the 12th or something? I got to go double check what date that was.
I think it's the 28th.
Is it the 28th?
Yeah,
I couldn't remember what date it got pushed back to after the election. I'm hearing the rumblings that he's thinking about reversing the whole thing. Oh my goodness. But I look at it and say that's not. All of these things, I have no trust for it. They are not going to willingly hand over power. No matter what she says yesterday about being committed to the peaceful transfer of power to Donald Trump, I call malarkey. No way. They have spent far too much time, effort, and money. Too many congressmen like Jamie Raskin have stepped outside the boundaries of their messaging and have said the quiet part out loud. We will make sure to find a way to not certify the electoral results. Now, they did hamstring themselves with a few things. Kamala Harris has only a ceremonial position because of the 2020 bill they passed. Being mad at Mike Pence for doing nothing.
Yeah.
They were mad at what he could have done, so they changed the rules.
Yep.
But they've hamstrung themselves there. The incoming Congress should be doable. But still, we have a very interesting set of circumstances between now and then. I don't know what they're going to pull, but I have no trust that they're just going to let it go unhampered.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what it is.
But it depends on how coordinated you think they are. Because some of this stuff just sounds like this is not a cohesive machine. Like, putting Harris at the top of the ticket is not an indication that the Democrats and the regime are working at tip-top shape. That was a major error. it was a huge error picking her. So, like, I think they're going to keep trying stuff, but I don't think it's going to be very coordinated. And if it's not coordinated, it's, Trump is anti-fragile. It's just going to boost him and make him stronger.
Mm-hmm. So here, by the way, I'm just looking at this because honestly, you want to know the answer, what I think is going to happen? I think that they're going to accelerate their attempts to kill Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. That seems more likely to me than them actually pulling off a non-certification of the results. Because, and this was my thought going into it, I think if he walks away with the popular vote in a big way, that makes this exceptionally difficult for them to argue some sort of, the election wasn't legitimate because of fraud, or he's an insurrectionist, or we just don't want to. That's kind of gone, because even if stuff works itself all the way up to the Supreme Court, who already punted and didn't want to do anything in 2020, if he won the popular vote, this kind of makes it a no-brainer for a lot of courts to go, come on, guys, he won. Like, it's not even like it was close in the Electoral College or in the popular vote. He just won. Go away.
Yeah.
So my thought is then they move to plan B, which is to try to eliminate him.
Yeah.
But the question is, what then happens? By the way, Democrats asked this question in 2020 because Biden was really old. Literally, that's why they were asking this. But it looks like if a presidential candidate dies, a nominee, before the Electoral College selection, which is the election itself, as we know, the party has a chance to replace him. You would assume it's the vice presidential running mate, but it's not necessarily guaranteed. But if a presidential candidate were to die before the Electoral College, the certification, once selected, but not before the January congressional certification, members of Congress have an opportunity to object to the results in any state, and if both chambers agree, to switch the state's votes to the opposing candidate. So I'm looking at a few different options that get really interesting and really dicey. And I'm wondering if that's the way to get this. They know they can't just not certify Trump's win. They know they can't just not seat him. So they have to get rid of him. And then they have a way to get into some sort of new uncharted territory in that weird hinterland. And this may have to be between the actual casting of ballots of the Electoral College, which, when does that take place?
I don't know.
The Electoral College needs...
But then again, if whatever they try, if it fails, that just gives Trump more justification for more extreme actions taken against them. So that's probably entering into a lot of people's calculus right now.
Okay, like December 17th.
Another one or two more failed assassination attempts. That's going to give him carte blanche with the approval of the American people to do just about anything he wants.
Especially now.
Yeah, as well as I could see, like 100 Democrats in Congress. I
don't know though. 28%, wasn't it like 28% of Democrats?
Yeah, 28%, but
they missed.
But that's 72%. That's like,
yeah, you're right. You're
wow,
right. You're right.
like,
you're right.
Like,
well, it's not 72. It's 62. Right?
28 plus 72.
No. You're right. You're right. You're right. 28, 72.
So.
I've done so much math this week, I'm done.
So, because, like, even the radical, like, some of the more radical leftists in Congress are going to be, like, might be more problematic on that issue, but your average Democrat in Congress, like, they're not, like, cool with killing the president, and if there's multiple failed assassination attempts and the pressure's on to figure this out, even if they are kind of iffy, I could, like, that adds a lot more cohesion in government if they're dealing with active threats to the president coming from somewhere. That provides a lot more justification for rooting that out. We got an interesting comment from a brilliant young man named Jesper Jesperson. Says, Trump fascist dictator and end of unfair trade, end of peace through strength. I don't know what peace he's talking about as wars rage across the world. End of free speech. I think it's the start of free speech. I don't know if this Jesper guy has been paying attention to the last year or so. End of law and order. What law and order? Interesting take, Jesper Jesperson, and he has a YouTube video that I'm not gonna check out. So.
Is this over on Rumble?
This is on Rumble.
Yeah, Jesper Jesperson has been following me for a while.
We are going to deport you onto the moon.
Although the X chat is more fun because one of our trolls is over there. Good old friend Theo, who is a troll of epic proportions and a coward at that.
He's on the X chat?
Yeah, he's on the X chat.
Wow.
Go and scroll down. Oh, is your internet working again?
Yeah, it's back on.
Okay, cool. Well, that's the thing. I cannot, here, someone says, I cannot fathom 60 million plus people voting for someone who allowed 18 to 20 million illegals. I can't either. Any replacement for J.D. Vance in Ohio, you think Vivek is a serious possibility for that still? Or are we going to see? Because that special election will come down the pike. By the way, the Electoral College timeline, what we're looking at here, November 5 obviously was Election Day. December 11, states issue certificates of ascertainment. December 17, the electors go and cast vote in their states. December 25, electoral votes arrive to the Archivist of the United States. And then on or before January 3, the Archivist transfers the certificates to Congress. January 6, Congress counts the electoral votes. January 20th at noon, Inauguration Day. That's your timeline. So there's the timeline that we're looking at. But looking back up, I mean, I don't know who's going to run in Ohio. We'll see what the special election is for that. But I think that at this point, with Bernie Moreno tipping over Sherrod Brown without even really trying, like, it wasn't close is what I should say.
Yeah.
I have good feelings about whoever it is. It will likely be someone decent, I think, and it will likely not be close. So we at least keep the majority vote for, a Republican there, which, take it as you will, that's not the best, but it's better than nothing because we have to have a majority that can be pushed around one way or another. I mean, we saw 20 conservative members of the House 2 years ago just dig their heels in and make the entire body of 435 people bend to their will over a speaker vote over and over and over again. Could they do everything with only the 20 votes? No. Could they cause a lot of trouble? Oh, yes, they could, and they did. So there's some interesting possibilities there. But anyway, yeah, this is. I don't know what this is. I think we've just Jasper Jesperson has some keywords he wants thrown in there.
Yep. Silly little
Pick for
man.
leader of the House and Senate. That's a good question out of Rumble. What do you think? Whatever it is, it cannot be John Cornyn or John Thune. No.
Agree.
No. If you're listening, no. Make it. I mean, I saw people, Rick Scott. I'm like, how about Rand Paul or Mike Lee? Come on. Like, let's just go all the way.
Yep.
Also, no more, if they're not going to take Thomas Massey for the Secretary of Agriculture, which I think would be awesome, then Tom Massey needs to be the next Speaker of the House.
Yeah.
Because I know Mike Johnson has asked, hey, can we let me be the Speaker of the House again? My answer to that is a resounding no. Take your FISA bag and get out. I've got too many things about Mike Johnson that I know now.
There's good people in there. Let's pick the good people.
All of Mac, you know what? I'm going to give, I thought you told, never mind. I'm going to give our good Polish friend here one shot at this. All of MAGA has discussed Operation Warp Speed, and all of MAGA and America First will freely tell you the final year of the Trump administration is our least favorite time of the Trump administration, and one that I greatly hope will not be repeated, and I have at least a moderate amount of faith that it's not going to be. Yeah. The switching out of Fauci for RFK in the world of Trump, I think, gives me the confidence that Warp Speed will not be repeated. Frankly, though, Warp Speed wasn't even my issue. My issue was the mandates, which came post-Trump.
Right.
That's my bigger issue.
Right. The mandates came from the Democrats.
I don't care what kind of technology they want to create for people to decide to or not to put in their body. I mean, I don't think we should, but I also think that you have the option to say no. When you didn't have the option to say no, that's when I'm really out of the woodwork with a problem. And reasonable people believe that. Of course, our favorite troll here on Twitter is not going to have anything to say about that because he doesn't have any thoughts. So there we go. But that's that. Let me see here. We'll see between now and the other side. Oh, by the way, why didn't they rig it this time? Troll nonetheless, a good question. That is part of this. I think we saw a huge legal
Well, we kept saying too big to rig.
Yeah, too big to rig, but that's the thing.
I think we did that plus cleaned up voter rolls across
look at the numbers,
many states.
Though. That's the thing, though. There were a few key places, Georgia, Texas, even a little bit in Arizona, where a few things were done that did enough to curb the tide of rigging. You still see it other places, but here's just at the end of the day, the Trump RNC legal team, Trump/RNC legal team, was phenomenally on task this year. Something happened, lawsuit, and judicial decision by the next morning. Bucks County, they tried to shut down the line of early voting like by an hour and a half or 2 hours a couple days in a row. Lawsuit filed. Judge says Bucks County has to stay open an entire extra day for early voting. There was a legal team, hundreds of lawyers across the country who were actually ready to go. We had no legal presence in 2020. The RNC was useless in 2020, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Under Michael Whatley and Lara Trump, they were ready. So I think that there was still plenty of opportunity for rigging, but they had a far less popular candidate, and they had a legal team that was stopping them.
Right, filing lawsuits as soon as any shenanigans showed up.
Does that account for everything? Not necessarily. But it honestly, that was a huge factor. I mean, we didn't just have the same lineup this year. I know some idiots out there can think that, oh, well, this and this and this. It just shows that they picked Joe Biden last time and the establishment picked Trump this time and he's their choice. There's a lot more factors than that, but you have to open your eyes and be smart to see it. So there you go. Freedom. Freedom is beautiful.
Well, I think that's everything. We've been going for about an hour.
By the way, the troll says brain chip. You want to know about the brain chip? Did you see Did you see Senator John Fetterman's interview on Rogan?
I did not know.
Oh my gosh, John Fetterman on Monday or Tuesday, whatever it was, he was like the only Democrat saying, guys, we need to start being more common sense on some of this trans stuff, and we're going to get our rear ends handed to us this week.
Yeah.
I think that Elon Musk may have left a Neuralink chimp somewhere around, and they put it in Fetterman. Who knows?
Speaking of chimps, did you hear about the 26 chimps that escaped somewhere in North Carolina earlier today?
I did not.
A bunch of primates escaped from a lab earlier today. So
well,
Planet of the Apes it is. That's what 2025 is actually going to look like.
And here I thought monkeypox was just another disease inside a certain section of the community, but apparently it's going to be the end of it all.
Well, okay. Apes are not monkeys. This would be apox. Chimp pox.
Chimp pox. I like that.
Anyway.
Chimp pox is good.
I think that's all we got for today, unless you have anything else.
No, I think that's about it. Do we have anything else over on Rumble? For some reason, Rumble Studio was not sending through the chats, but the rest were.
Nope.
Leader of the House and Senate.
Oh, we already discussed that.
Yeah, Tom Massey and Rand Paul. Bring it on. Although Rand Paul might get busy with the Fed, and all kinds of stuff. All kinds of stuff. So that's exciting. That's exciting. All right, folks, that's all I got.
Hit the green big button if you're on Rumble. If you're on YouTube, the red button. Hit follow on X. And head over to unauthorizedcaucus.com, and you're going to get an email with all the links of everything we've discussed today. And that's how you can know when we're going live, any changes. That's how we communicate with you, aside from the podcast itself and the live stream. So make sure you're subscribed over there. Make sure you're subscribed to my Substack as well, where I'm posting awesome stuff every day. Not every day. And once or twice a week.
Make sure you're going to our wonderful sponsor, TRexInc.com. Use the code CAUCUS30. You'll get the big discount, and you'll let them know that we sent you. They've got some cool stuff. I already saw they've got their big Save Peanut, or not Save Peanut. What was it? Do it for Peanut. There's a great shirt out there. The Peanut will live forever. Did you see the squirrel at the Harris concession rally? Up a squirrel. If you're not sure about Peanut, go Google it, Peanut the squirrel. But there was a little squirrel that popped up on the screen briefly and ran across the background at the Kamala's Harris concession rally. Peanut's spirit lives on. That's all we got for you, folks. That's it. Next week, we'll do another one. Go subscribe on unauthorizedcaucus.com. You get the podcast and notes tomorrow. All the notes, lots of notes. Let us know what you want to hear about now that we've got the golden age of Trump 47 coming down the pike. There's a lot to discuss. Let us know what you want to do in the future, and we'll look forward to seeing you next Thursday on the next installment of Unauthorized Caucus. If it's Thursday at noon,
it's caucus time.